Those are the views being proffered by the former presidential advisor on economic matters, Dr. Desmond Thomas, who has also banded together with a group of locals to promulgate meaningful electoral reforms.
We all want to prevent last year's events from happening again, but the draft reforms do not go far enough to avoid political crisis and improve the political environment.
Dr. Thomas asserted that it is a misconceived and short-sighted perception that the electoral crisis began in March 2020. He ventured on to propagate the argument that the crisis dates back to 2017 when there was a deadlock between the government of the day and the then opposition leader over the selection and appointment of a GCOM chairperson. Dr. Thomas opined that the current reforms being proposed, instead of addressing the fundamental issues, are more regressive and derive no benefits for the country.
For the most part, what the draft amendment does is essentially entrench a bad electoral system. Its passage at this time, instead of creating stability and progress, would set us back years.
The former presidential advisor continued with his criticism of the proposed reforms, while alluding to the notion that citizens would rather a system of politics where the members of the National Assembly are directly accountable to them, the citizenry, as opposed to a party leader or executive, also known as party paramountcy. Recollecting on one of the bases for the implementation of the system of proportional representation, which the country uses as its methodology for electioneering, Thomas said that the current amendments to the Representation of the People's Act frustrates that intention.
One intention behind the adoption of proportional representation 57 years ago was to foster a vibrant, multi-party political climate. The present ROPA frustrates that vision, and the proposed amendments do not even attempt to address this issue.
Thomas further indicated that the citizenry of the country are more inclined to embracing a system where the electoral machinery, that is GCOM, is not prone to party or any form of interference or otherwise. He also stated that citizens would much rather an electoral machinery that is able to function independently and which would be able to keep party officials in line during their respective campaign trails. Dr. Thomas also alluded to the issue of campaign financing, which he says the current amendments fail to address. In that regard, he bemoaned the proposed reforms by the government, even as he lamented the fact that it narrowly focuses on penalizing election officers for malfeasance and further subdividing Region 4 as a means of dealing with the issues that occurred during the 2020 general and regional elections.
The government says the proposed amendment aims to prevent the recurrence of last year's electoral crisis. But it is doubtful that it will achieve that aim because it leaves so many critical issues unaddressed.
Wendell Badree for the HGP Nightly News.